There has been an update. We are currently in the testing branch. Let's start. They added the BioBot Builder Storytrait with this lovely temporary art. This here is the temporary art for the building. We also have this temporary glass cabinet here on the right. If you take a look at it, it will drop a data bank, give you a little entry, and there are 2 spore kit seeds inside of it. The new BioBot Builder building requires the advanced medical care skill. Let's take a look at our rich Philly-Bob here, opening the glass tiles and dropping 2 spore kit seeds. After activating the BioBot Builder, you can send a skilled duplicant skilled in advanced medical care to use the building. But for that you will need zombie spores and steel, hence the 2 spore kit seeds. Spore kits also seem to be a bit more abundant. Let's grab the seeds, plant them and have them produce zombie spores. These zombie spores can then be sucked up, transported via pipe into the input, and the now germ-free gas can be output into the same room. Once you collected 20 million germs and provided 300 kilograms of steel, the building can be used. After supplying the building with the steel, the tiny robot is built, but not filled yet, because the zombie spores are needed by this tiny creature here to produce the biofuel that it needs to run. After the spore has been incubated with zombie spores, the tiny robot will be operable. We are now awaiting the duplicant with the doctor skill. Thank you McLim for doing the task. So this is the spore, not a morb, and the spore is being placed in the tiny robot. This will reset the building and you can build another one. The BioBot is already on the way, doing work. Let's see what the BioBot can do, except for storing stuff. Since the BioBot managed to get all the way down here, ladders are no problem. The BioBot can dig. Can the BioBot dig hard materials? Doesn't look like it. There's still the skill required. Soft materials are no problem though. Can the BioBot research? No, it cannot. And it completely ignores what I said for the doors, which is another point that I wanted to test. Can the BioBot cook? The BioBot cannot cook. And the BioBot also cannot use the egg cracker. The microbe musher also doesn't seem to work. At the moment, the only thing the BioBot did is store the materials. Is the BioBot capable of auto-harvesting plants? Doesn't seem like it. It will also not dig up plants, but the tile below works just fine. As the biofuel that was put in implies, once the power of the biofuel runs out, in this case 180 kilojoule, the BioBot will stop working. It will take a while for it to shut down, but then it will just stop. You can then click on it and deconstruct it manually. A duplicant will come by, deconstruct it, and the BioBot will drop 100 kg of genetic ooze. You will not get any steel or zombie spores back. The BioBot has the same extremely high melting point that any genetic ooze, either living creature, duplicant and so on has, of 9727. So you can use it in high temperature areas. It does not have a overheat temperature, meaning you can use it to dig up the oil biome, but only the soft stuff in the oil biome. The BioBot could also be used in extreme radiation areas or cold areas. The BioBot is able to deconstruct buildings, but is not able to construct buildings. The BioBot is not able to mob. At the moment it seems with the time you need to fuel the bots and the time that the battery of the bots lasts, you can have a maximum of 3 BioBots. A BioBot can carry 200 kilograms of material. A hostile PokéShell will not attack a BioBot, even though a BioBot has a health of 100. The BioBot itself also cannot attack the PokéShells in return. Right now I think there is a lot of potential for the BioBot, but in its current state, and I'm very sorry to say that, but it is pretty useless. At the moment there is no unique selling point for the BioBot. Anything that the bot can do, a duplicant can do as well. Of course they are definitely more heat, cold or radiation resistant, but we could also just use a duplicant in a suit. We do not need the BioBot for that. And besides that, we can, at least in the DLC, always deploy a rover module to do the same job that the BioBot can do, but better. A rover has the same battery and health, but a rover is also able to build buildings. I would suggest making the BioBot refuelable just like a sweepy, either with electricity or with the here mentioned biofuel. Maybe give us an outlet where we can refuel the BioBots so we can use them for a longer time. Also giving the BioBot 1 or 2 skill points would make them pretty unique and also a lot more useful. We could build a completely dupe labor-free base with that. So to sum it up, I think that a BioBot has great potential, but at the moment I think there's no clear intent to what the BioBot is actually supposed to be in the game. It does not have a clear niche, and the use cases for the BioBot are pretty limited to hot, cold or radiated areas, which can also be accessed via a suit. Talking about suits, they added an automation port to the Atmosuit Checkpoint. With this we can very quickly decide whether the duplicants don't need a suit or if we want them to use the suit. They added 2 new buildings, the Dehydrator and the Rehydrator. The Dehydrator, as the name implies, can dehydrate your food. Let's choose for example the dried mushroom quiche and press forever. The Dehydrator can dehydrate any food that was produced with a gas range. So stuffed berry, mushroom wrap, surf and turf, pepper bread and so on. The same as the gas range, the Dehydrator uses natural gas. The Dehydrator uses 20 grams of natural gas per second, needs a duplicant to operate it, even though not the whole time, puts out carbon dioxide at 5 grams per second, produces 4 kilodTUs of heat and has an automation input. Once the building has properly dehydrated the food and a duplicant comes by and takes it out of the machine will just drop all of the water on the floor, which is why I would suggest using mesh tiles under the building. At the moment the Rehydrator building is still a work in progress. It is only in a preview state and not functional at this point in time. Still, I really like the idea of the dry rations. In the database you can check out which food items you can use to create dry rations. Let's compare this again. Stuffed berry, mushroom wrap, surf and turf, pepper bread and so on. Seems to be exactly what you can produce in a gas range. There's a new storage tile building that can be used in tight spaces. It can be used as floor and as wall. After building the storage tile, you have to select what item you want to store. Then it will select the filter for the item, a dupe will come by and activate the storage tile. You have a storage capacity of 1000 kg. They do reduce the run speed by 25% and have a negative decor of -8 in a radius of 2 tiles. They show the status of how much they are filled, with this tiny green circle here filling up slowly. The new storage tile can also be used to neatly mark your storage containers. Refridgerator no longer drops non-food items when spiced food only is selected. It will only drop food items. The non-food items are still in there. They added more animations to the molecular forge when a duplicant is operating it. As you can see by the lovely Arale here. The wheel, the being annoyed, checking the clock, cleaning the machine, the being very annoyed, and the butt scratching. Let's not forget the reading. Here we do have a very archaic ranch setup. And here they added the critter condo building, which provides additional critter happiness. Visiting a critter condo gives the lovely Pip, for example, +1 happiness for 1 cycle. Because this is only for ground-based critter, we do have the same for aquatic critters. There it is called a water fort and also gives a happiness boost to adult pokeshells and parkus. Let's check this out. This parku here also got the cozy buff of +1 happiness for exactly 1 cycle. So why did they give us additional happiness states for the critters? Well, critter now have 4 states of happiness. If we check out our critter here in the middle, let's grab the tamed stonehenge right here and we check for the mood, we can see that it is happy. Happy gives a reproduction rate bonus of +900% and you get the happy state if your critter has a happiness of 4 or higher. Hydrated gives +5, groomed +5, cozy +1 and being tame -1. So a tamed but groomed critter always has a happiness of 4, giving you the mood of happy and the higher reproduction rate. In order to show you the other happiness values, we can use the new overcrowded penalty that is now -1 happiness per excess critter instead of the first excess critter being -4 and each additional excess critter contributing -1. So let's see what happens if we add more critter. Let's use cuddle pips here, they're easier to spot, and check the sage hedge. The sage hedge now has the overcrowded debuff of -1 happiness. Let's check the overall happiness, still at 8. Let's add a few more of those. 1, 2, 3, 4. We are still at happy at this point. Let's check this. We do have a happiness of 0 because this one didn't drink from the critter fountain. Let's check out this stone hedge. Still a happiness of 5. Let's remember this stone hedge here. Add more cuddle pips. Check this stone hedge again. And we should be at happiness 3. We are now at a different mood called satisfied. You will get a satisfied mood if your critter has a happiness of 0 up to 3, which adds no additional effects, neither positive nor negative. Let's add a few more of those cuddle pips. 1 cuddle pip more and we are at the level of -1. Let's check this. The happiness is at, okay, let's add a few more. The stone hedge now has a happiness of -1. -1, changing the mood to glum. The critter metabolism dropped and is now at -80. And the glum state will stay up to a level of -9 happiness. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Check the stone hedge again. We are at -8 at the moment. We can add another one. I think I'm not hitting the same stone hedge every time. And now the stone hedge has a happiness of -10. Anything that is below -10 changes the mood to miserable, changing the reproduction rate to 0, and the critter metabolism was already reduced to -80. Those are the 4 new states of happiness of the critter, reaching from anything that is -10 or lower being a miserable happiness state. The critter will have a decreased metabolism and a stopped reproduction rate. Then -9 to -1 being glum, only giving you a decreased metabolism. Then we can have 0 happiness up to 3 happiness. The critter will be satisfied with no additional effects. And 4 or more, the critter will be happy and has an increased reproduction rate of +900%. As already mentioned, each additional critter will give a happiness debuff of -1. As you might have also already noticed, they renamed the overcrowded status into crowded. They also changed the hungry status effect to looking for food. So we don't have to think that our critter is hungry all the time. Parkus though did change in a different way. The bonus they now get from 8 from feeder is increased to a happiness bonus of +5 instead of the +2 they got before. Since they will get a -1 if they are tame, we will end up with +4 happiness, giving us an increased reproduction rate, meaning probably nothing will change in this regard. Parkus' diet also has changed. If they feed on seeds, for example, they no longer eat tiny amounts, but they will eat a whole seed. So Parkus' diet has changed to a single seed, or in this case 7.5 kg of algae per cycle. They also added the critter metabolism to the side panel here. You can now check it out. This one here is 20%, the base is 100. The presentation of the critter metabolism was adjusted to start at 100% instead of 0%. The critter field guide in the database has also been updated to represent the 4 happiness state and the new crowded state, which is no longer called overcrowded. Check this out if you're interested. Food entries in the database now show the associated recipes. If we check out the cooked seafood, for example, we get that it is an ingredient in surf and turf and produced by cooking raw fish or Paco filet and raw shellfish. Grub fruit preserve, for example, they added a milestone celebration for cycle 100 and cycle 1000. I will not show this here. We don't have the time to wait that long, sorry. Meter valves now reset only when first receiving a green signal and are no longer held open by a continuous signal. This still works though. For the DLC only, they added a rocket port extension building, which is this one. They changed how a rocket checks for a clear path to space when launching, consistent with how they check when landing. As you can see, it now checks the widest module. Still, let's try this. Make this only 3 tiles wide and then try to launch this. Of course I can launch this in debug, but I cannot in a normal game. In debug though, not a problem. They added new ambient sounds to the rocket interiors. If you try to land a rocket, your game will crash. Gotta have this at least once every update. Duplicants deployed from a Trailblazer module are no longer automatically removed from the crew. Instead, they are removed automatically if the rocket lands on a different asteroid. They changed the tooltip for stable in the room overlay to specify which ranching buildings fulfill that room's requirement. In our case, the grooming station, critter condo, critter fountain, shearing station and milking station. They added a category entry in the buildings section called requirement, containing information about the room requirements. They added the option to activate sandbox tools while in game. There are no sandbox tools available to me right now, but if I go to options, game, then I can enable the sandbox tools right here. And with this I have access to the sandbox. They added a Storytrait tool to the sandbox mode. Now we can choose which Storytrait we want to build or place down. You can only place down Storytraits that are not already in this existing save file. They added the search function to more side screens. The refrigerator has a search function, the conveyor loader now also has a search function, the fish feeder, even the bottle emptier has a search function, and so on and so forth. There have also been a few fixes to all versions and the spaced out DLC only, as well as new stuff to the supply closet that is not printable at the moment. Leave a like for the update news, check out the end of my last video to see how you can get the testing branch for yourself. Subscribe if you don't want to miss the next update. A special thanks to all my patrons and YouTube members who are still here after all this time, and I wish you all a nice day and a great weekend. Love you guys and Luma out.